first thing we're going to do, I'm going to create a hue saturation adjustment layer. So let's go to our adjustment layers, and I'm going to go down to hue/saturation. Okay, now here in the hue saturation, you can just click and drag the hue, and it'll basically just change what's going on into your entire image. Or you can actually select your color range. So in this case, it's going to only select reds or yellows, whatever have it. So I'm going to click on the reds, and this is going to allow us a lot more options to kind of like really narrow down exactly what we want to affect. So we're just affecting the reds now, and what I'm going to do, I want to see what the changes I'm going to make are. So I'm going to just temporarily crank up the hue and the saturation, okay? So we get something like this. Now, this is not how we want it to be in the end. This is just going to help me see. Okay, so hue and saturation are cranked up on the reds. Now, there's a slider down here, and you may never have noticed this before. Basically what the slider does is it takes the above color and turns it into the beneath color. So it's taking red now and turning it into green. Now, if I click on this slider right here in the middle, I can actually move this around, and it's going to affect different parts of my image. Now, as I go to the left, right over here, you can see that it's right about here, it's targeting those pimples, which is really, really cool. So over to the right, it's just kind of affecting all the reds, but as I bring it over to the left, it's starting to target just those pimple areas. So this is exactly what we want. I'm using this like bright green color to see where it's targeting. So it should highlight your lips as well as any of the pimple areas. So this looks good as far as showing us what's actually going to be affected. So now that we know what's going to be affected, we're going to bring our saturation down to 0. We're going to bring our hue, I'm going to hit 0 there as well, so it's totally back to normal. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to bring my hue to the right just a little bit, okay? And that's going to give it more of a skin tone color. So I can bring it to the left and it's going to be horrible. To the right is going to give us a little bit closer to skin tone. I'm also going to take my lightness and we're going to bring that up as well. All right, there we go. And we can bring up our saturation just a little bit as well. Okay, and you want to find a hue that's right there similar to your color ranges. So hue, saturation, and lightness, bring all those up once you've targeted those reds. Okay, let's go ahead and see what this looks like with the before and after. I'm just going to turn this off and on, and you can see it's taking care of a lot of our redness. Now, we need some color back in our lips, so we're just going to click on our hue, saturation, layer mask, and I'm going to paint with black with a regular paintbrush right there on the lips. There we go, and it's going to bring the color back. Now you can see it's also getting rid of some of this color that's in the cheeks and things like that. It's okay. If we need to bring that back after we get rid of this acne, it's totally okay. We can bring that back afterwards. So there's step 1, getting rid of the redness, and this is a really great way to do it. Okay, step 2, we're going to create a new layer, and I'm going to use the spot healing brush. I'm going to click on this content aware, and that's going to figure out what's around this actually, the area that I'm actually trying to get rid of, and it's going to fill it in automatically. They've really done a good job with this. So content aware, and I'm going to click on sample all layers. That's going to make sure I can actually do this on a new layer. All right, and now all I have to do is kind of paint over all of my blemishes. So I'm using a pressure-sensitive tablet here, but you can use a mouse for this. I would recommend using about the same brush size as the actual blemish. So in this case, because I'm using a pressure-sensitive tablet, I'm just not pressing very hard over these areas where I have my blemishes. So I want to cover about what the blemishes are. So a larger blemish, you'll just kind of cover up more of the area, and a smaller blemish, you'll just kind of cover up a little bit less of the area. And that's going to help keep things really nice and even. So what I do is I go over this over a couple different passes. My first one is all about getting rid of the actual, like the spots that you totally see, like that, that spot, things like that little guy. So this is like my first pass. It's basically going and actually taking care of like those spots that we see. Now my second pass, which I'm going to start in just a little bit, is kind of going to take care of like more blotchy areas and things like that. So this is pretty good. We're looking, there we go. That's a blotchy area that I'm talking about right there. All right, so we're looking pretty good. Let's just go ahead and remove those spots, and yeah, we're on our way to looking good. So now let's remove the blotchy areas. So we got rid of the blotchy areas with color. Now I'm going to do it with lights and darks and things like that. So we're going to zoom out here on the image, and then like this area, it's just a little bit blotchy. So I'm just going to kind of paint over that entire area. It's going to sample skin that's a little more even and fill it in for me. Even this area here and that area there. And the cool thing about this tool is if you don't like what you've done, like if you paint over and it doesn't look good, you can either use your eraser tool or you can just paint it in again, because what it does is it's going to sample a different part of your image and it's going to paint it right over on top of your image again. All right, we're almost done here. I'm just kind of targeting these areas, and you can see this took almost no time because the majority of our work was done when we got rid of the redness in the image. So now we're just kind of taking care of some of the texture areas. All right, and doing some skin smoothing while we're at it. So that's just going to take care of the larger areas. So start off with the small little pores and things like that, then zoom out and take care of your larger areas. Okay, now this looks great. We're going to add a little bit more redness back to the skin just because it's like to help it look a little bit more natural or like it did before. So we're going to make a new layer. I'm going to grab my brush tool. I'm going to grab this color that's in our lips already, and I'm just going to paint right here over top of our face. Change this from normal down to something like soft light, and then we can just bring it way down. And that's just going to help add a little bit more color. Again, that's not a totally necessary step, but generally